Hi you guys, welcome back. Today I want to do a little bit of kind of a quick mini book review on 3 of the books I've read recently. These are all going to be in the self-development genre. That's probably my top favorite genre to read. I love fiction, of course. But there is something about books that help you become the best version of yourself that I find so inspirational, so motivating, and it just kind of fills me with this sense of limitless possibilities in life. And I really do feel that no matter your situation, where you come from, there's so much that we can do to elevate our own life experiences. And so I get really motivated by that. Kind of a nerd for self-development books. So I want to share that 3 of the most recent ones I've read that are kind of, I think, top of the charts in this category. So maybe this will help you decide what you might want to read or just take some good takeaways from what I've learned. So the 3 books are The Miracle Equation by Hal Elrod. That's the same author that wrote The Miracle Morning, which I also have a video on. That book changed my life. This book changed my life. Spoiler alert. So good. So I want to tell you guys about that. I also want to tell you about Better Than Before by Gretchen Rubin, another book that completely changed how I look at myself and life and other people. And then lastly, Atomic Habits by James Clear, where I just learned a lot of good stuff out of that book. So the first one is The Miracle Equation by Hal Elrod. I read all of these books on my phone on the Kindle app. I just think it's the easiest way because I always have my phone on me. So if I'm in line at the grocery store, or I'm sitting in a waiting room, or I'm still in bed and I haven't gotten up for the day, and I'm gonna be on my phone in those situations anyway, I'd rather be reading, especially a book like these that really expands my brain. So I read these all on Kindle, and then I also purchased the audiobook on Audible, and it's really cool how that works together. I've talked about this before. You can listen to the book, and then when you pause it, you can go back to reading it and it knows where you left off. It works seamlessly together. So I recommend that technique if you're trying to devour books a lot like I do. I read at least a book a week. So I'm just powering through books on top of my 60 hours of work and everything else I have going on. So I read these on Kindle. This one, the first one, The Miracle Equation. Like I said, it's by the same author as The Miracle Morning. So that book made me a morning person, and I am a devoted night owl. That book is amazing. I still do the Miracle Morning routine every day. I have a really bad day if I don't, just plain and simple. It makes good days and it makes a good life. So I already was expecting a lot out of this book because I love the author. I love his whole movement. And this book did not disappoint. It was amazing. It's very simple. These are all going to kind of sound simple when I boil it down. Trust me when I say it's absolutely worth reading the whole thing to get the full, not just the little cliff notes that I'm going to give you, but the full experience. But basically he talks about the miracle equation, which is how you can create miracles in your life. Not religious miracles or natural miracles or anything like that, but just outstanding results that you can't get any other way, but it seems miraculous. So whether you have a huge goal to lose 100 pounds or start your own business or whatever it might be, he says the key to succeeding in that is to have unwavering faith that you can and will do the thing, and then to put in extraordinary effort to make it happen. So the book starts out talking about the author Hal's experience in sales. And I have to admit, if I hadn't read his other books and been a part of his community, I almost would have put the book down because I really don't have a sales bone in my body and I don't resonate with sales stories. I'm not a salesperson. I don't particularly like it when people try to sell me things. You guys know on this channel, I don't sell you things. That's a big thing for me. So it did start out with a lot of stories from sales, which were powerful because he had an outstanding career in sales as a young guy. But that wasn't the part of the book that resonated with me the most. What resonates with me the most about his story is that he has almost died twice. Once in a horrible car accident where he was hit head on by a drunk driver and he was dead on the scene for 6 minutes. And I was very interested to learn more about that story, which he does go into in this book, and it is so inspiring. He was in a coma afterward, and when he came to, they told him he'd probably never walk again, and it was just a horribly traumatic thing that shouldn't happen to anyone. And he talks about in this book about how he just very, very quickly accepted it. This happened, I can't control it. If I'm going to be in a wheelchair the rest of my life, I'm going to be the happiest, most grateful guy that's ever been in a wheelchair. And I find that to be such an inspirational outlook. So I loved that. I loved hearing more about that. He did go on to walk again. Like, it absolutely blew his doctor's mind. So I loved hearing about that and how he used extraordinary effort to heal and unwavering faith that he could heal to get past that. And then he also talked about a more recent experience, which is that he was diagnosed with a really traumatic, really awful type of cancer that was very aggressive. He had to have hardcore chemotherapy and he fought it just tooth and nail. He did so many holistic efforts. He had complete faith that he could and would beat this cancer, even though the odds were really, really low, like 20 to 30% survival rate. And he did beat it. He's cancer-free, and I just think that's so awesome, so inspirational. And I loved hearing more about that too, and that was very moving. So I love that he shared those, and then throughout he's sharing all of the wisdom that he's kind of gathered through all of these different parts of his life. So there's so much good stuff in this book. I'm just gonna tell you, I really think you should read it if you're interested in these things, because it really blew my mind in so many ways. But one takeaway that I definitely want to share in this video, because it honestly, this is the part I will say changed my life, and I don't know if this is gonna sound really obvious, but he talks about the 5-minute rule, which is where you take, when something bad happens, something outside of your control, something that you just, it's awful, you take 5 minutes, you literally set a timer, and you let yourself feel the feelings and the negativity and just being so frustrated and ranting and raving and cussing for 5 minutes. And then when the timer goes off, you pick yourself up and you move on. So I thought that was a really powerful technique as far as like if a business deal falls through or something doesn't go your way, because, you know, we can kind of stew on these things and it can ruin our day, our week, our month, whatever it might be. So I thought that was a really good technique for just like getting over it and moving on. You still get to feel those feelings, which is important, and not to be repressing that stuff, but it frees you up to move on. So I really liked that. But then there was like a further implication of that that kind of blew me away, which is that he was talking about, you know, how you have to accept anything outside of your control and not just carry around like the toxic emotions of that. And an example that was used was about a woman whose father had died, and she, when she went to a talk where Hal shared this idea, she realized, like, I can't change the fact my father died, like I have to accept it. And you guys know I lost both of my parents when I was pretty young, and I miss them so much, and I struggle a lot, as anybody would that survived, you know, their parents and their grandparents and doesn't have that in their life anymore. You know, it's something I really struggle with. I'm open about that with you guys, and it made me realize, like, accepting the loss of my parents is really important. I think on some level I realized that I felt like accepting something means you're okay with it. It's fine that it happened. Like, it's fair, it's okay, and it's not okay. Like, when we lose someone we love, it's not okay. But you do have to accept the things that are outside your control just so that you can move on, which is what, like, my parents would want for me and stuff. So it's not that I haven't moved on in 12 years since I lost my mom, but like, I did realize I have to kind of reduce the emotional resistance that I have to something like that drags on me. And it's not like 5 minutes is ever going to be enough to grieve for someone that you love, but accepting the sort of the mantra that you can't change it and it's your responsibility now to move on. Really, like, that's just something nobody ever told me in 12 years of grief. No one ever, like, I know that acceptance is a stage of grieving, but no one ever sat me down and said, like, you can still love them with your whole heart, and you can still hate that they're gone, and you're not saying it's okay that they're gone, but you are saying it's okay to live my life, and I have to accept that what happened and I can't change it because it's in the past. And that frees you up to move forward in like whole new directions and dimensions, and it honestly felt like a weight off. So I don't know if that sounds obvious, I don't know if that's like too personal to share, but I just had to say this book really opened my eyes to the importance of accepting things that are out of our control so that we don't waste our precious energy on those things. Okay, so that was The Miracle Equation. I couldn't recommend that book more. I loved it. Stick with it if the first part doesn't connect with you. I think as he gets deeper into his story, it will resonate with pretty much everybody. It was so good. All right, so next up I want to talk about Atomic Habits by James Clear. James Clear is kind of a guru in the habits and self-development space, I'd say. He's sort of like a whiz kid, and I never totally got into his blog or anything like that, but I always heard about this book, so I finally read it. I read it on Kindle and on Audible. I have to say, this one I don't recommend the audiobook as much, just because it's read by the author and he's very monotone and it is a little bit harder to stay focused. So just know whether or not that's like a deal breaker for you. The Hal Elrod book, he's like a public speaker, and he reads the audiobook and it's really good and engaging. This one is very monotone. But that said, I loved the book itself and all of the ideas. I wouldn't say that there was one like life-changing nugget in here the way there was in the other two books I'm going to talk about, but I just took so much good, solid advice as far as just understanding how the human brain works, how habits are formed, how you can change bad habits, how you can start new good habits. And he kind of breaks it down into a really simple to understand, even though it's complex behavioral science, he breaks it down into like things that you can understand and implement right away in your own life. So part of his whole approach is that he breaks it down into the laws of habit formation. So making things obvious, like setting yourself up for success, where like if you want to start brushing your teeth, you put the toothbrush somewhere really obvious so that you see it and you do it every night. Second law, making it attractive. So making it like pleasant to do these things. So if you have to like start doing an hour of computer work in the evenings, maybe you can keep your computer by the couch because it's like attractive to sit on the couch, and that'll get you to do your work. Third law, to make it easy. So like set yourself up where it's easier to do the right thing than the wrong thing. Like in the morning, I put my running shoes out ready to go. I'd have to go all the way into my closet and pick another pair of shoes and like go out of my way to not wear my running shoes and not go on my run. Fourth law, make it satisfying, which is basically to build in gratification for yourself when you do the right thing, the habit that you want to do, and build in like a reward system. So he goes into a lot more depth than that, obviously, but it kind of all boils down to those laws, how you can maximize it for your own success, how you can create a streak and use like positive momentum and just sort of harness all the good things you want to bring into your life and also kick bad habits. So really good book if you're fascinated by habits like I am. I think habits like make or break people. The secret to your future is written in your daily habits, and so there was a ton of good insight from that. All right, last book that I would like to share with you is called Better Than Before by Gretchen Rubin. She wrote another book about happiness, which I read before with my old book club, and that one didn't resonate with me as much, maybe because I am kind of a default happy person. I didn't get as many tips out of that, but this one, wow, just wow. I absolutely loved it. This is about habits, habit formation. I love Gretchen Rubin's writing style. I really like her personality. She's very much sort of got this journalistic curiosity about things, and I love the way she writes about them. Very clear and communicative and fun to read. Fun audiobook on this one as well. But the thing that really grabbed me is I honestly feel like she deserves a Nobel Peace Prize or something for what she discovered by kind of researching different types of people and how they do with creating new habits or following through on what they say they're going to do. And she broke humans down into 4 categories. So we have obligers, who are people that are willing to follow through for others, but not for themselves. Upholders, who follow through for others and follow through for things for themselves. Rebels, who kind of don't want to do what they're told and rebel against being told what to do. And questioners, who will do the thing, but they have a lot of questions and they want it to be proven that it's worth doing this thing. So when you're trying to start a new habit, it can be really helpful to know which one of those types you are. And she has a quiz, which I'll put in the links below. And so I am an obliger, and I think anybody who knows me can guess that. Like, I love to make other people happy. I love to please people. It's so much harder to follow through when it's just for myself. Like, if I say I'm gonna go running at 6 a.m., there's a good chance I won't. But if I tell my friend I'm gonna meet her to go running at 6 a.m., I will absolutely be there because I don't wanna let her down. So actually the majority of people fall into this group, if this is sounding familiar to you at all. I think she said about 50% of people are obligers, but definitely take the quiz and see where you wind up, because just knowing how you are can help you set yourself up for success more so. So this is just the ultimate example of know thyself. And if you know which type of person you are, and it's really uncanny how well people fit into these roles, into these categories, that will help you leverage for success. So for me, when I have a new goal now, I always make sure I build in external accountability. So like, I tell friends that I'm doing it, I tell Nate that I'm doing it, I tell you guys that I'm doing something. And that way it's like, if I fail on this goal, I'm not just failing on myself on something I wanted, which should matter, but honestly to an obliger, it doesn't matter as much. I would be failing to others that are holding me accountable. So if you're like an upholder type, you don't have that problem where you can set a goal and like follow through just because you told yourself you were gonna do it. So I wish I was that tendency, but I'm not, and most people aren't. And then there's also like rebels, like you can kind of understand yourself to know, I always rebel against things I feel like I have to do, so how can I set this thing up to be something I want to do, not something I have to do? And this book just really helps break it down so you can kind of understand your own psychology and use it to your benefit. She also goes even further and breaks it down into two types of people, like those who like finishing things and those who like starting things. I like finishing things. Like if you've seen my empties videos, I get a lot of satisfaction from using the absolute last drop of a product. I think it's like the best feeling. Whereas there's other people who just love like starting something, like when you like take the lid off the jar and it's fresh. I love that too, but I don't like to have that feeling until I feel like I've finished something. So just kind of knowing little things like that. Do you like old things or new things? Do you like mornings or nights? Do you do well with moderation, or are you better if you just abstain from something entirely? Like she talks about how some people can have just one bite of dessert and savor it and feel satisfied. And then there's other people like her and like me who if you have one bite, it's like, I now must finish this whole dish of ice cream because it's like I started it, I'm gonna finish it. So just kind of knowing things like that about yourself, like it might be better just not to have the bite of ice cream if you don't want to go down that road. It's easier to say no to one bite than it would be to stop after one bite. So whereas other people, like I would rather taste the thing, know what it tastes like, and then say no. So just kind of having that level of self-awareness is so key with taking yourself to the next level, to achieve your goals, to start new habits, to end bad habits, and just to kind of maximize yourself. And so this book has so much little insight like that in every chapter. I gobbled it up. I thought it was so fascinating, and I started to look at the world through a whole new lens. Everybody I interact with, I'm kind of mentally thinking like, I wonder which type they are. Like everybody I know, I was making them take the quiz, friends and family. When I work with somebody as a coaching client, I always have them take the quiz because it just kind of helps me interact with someone. Like obviously all people are different and nobody's gonna fit perfectly tidily into one little box, but it is crazy how accurate it is considering. Also, she just even knows things like when I was reading about being an obliger, she said obligers are usually with rebels and Nate is a rebel. So it's so funny how like little parts of your life just get explained, and it just makes sense how people work and work together and everything. So I loved that book. I loved all three of those books. I feel like I got so much insight into myself and into the human condition as a whole, and I just felt so motivated to like tackle new goals. Like we're halfway through 2019, so don't forget about your New Year's resolutions if you have them, or it's never too late to start some new goals, start some new progress. Think about how much farther we could be by the end of the year, and we could be looking back on June and realizing if we just started then, we could have succeeded. So this is your chance to succeed on everything you want, especially if you want to get some extra tools for that, have a little bit of self-awareness, learn how to cope with devastating stuff, and also just put in the faith and the effort to make things happen and to understand how habits work. So those are my 3 books that I want to recommend in this genre. I would love to know if you guys have any suggestions in this genre, or if you just have any requests for future book reviews. I love to read. I'm a writer. This is like my whole cup of tea. So I will definitely do more videos like this if you'd like. And thank you so much for watching. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.